The transition from ISO 9001-2015 to ISO 9001-2026 is a significant undertaking for every certified organization. In the next few minutes, we walk through the publication timeline, the 3-year transition window, and the practical steps to ensure a smooth migration. Let us begin with the publication timeline. Understanding the milestones from committee draft through to the final published standard helps organizations plan their transition effort with confidence. The ISO 9001 revision follows a structured development process with several key milestones. Here are the 5 stages organizations should track. The committee draft, or CD1, was circulated in 2024 for national body review and comment. This was the first formal opportunity for ISO member bodies worldwide to evaluate the proposed changes, submit feedback, and influence the direction of the revision. The CD stage revealed the major themes of the update: digitalization, sustainability, culture, and resilience, and gave organizations an early signal of what to expect in the final standard. The Draft International Standard, or DS, consolidates the feedback received during the CD stage into a near-final version of the standard. The DS represents the substantive technical content that will appear in the published standard, with only editorial refinements expected beyond this point. Organizations that begin their gap analysis at the DS stage gain a significant head start, as the clause structure and requirements are unlikely to change materially between DS and publication. The final Draft International Standard, or FDS, is the last voting stage before publication. National bodies cast a formal yes or no vote, and if the threshold is met, the standard proceeds to publication. The FDS stage is typically a formality when the DS has received strong support. For transition planning purposes, the FDS confirms that publication is imminent and that organizations should finalize their readiness plans. Publication of ISO 9001-2026 triggers the start of the 3-year transition window. From the date of publication, certified organizations have exactly 3 years to transition their quality management system to the new edition and complete a successful transition audit. Certification bodies will begin offering transition audits shortly after publication, and organizations should plan their transition timeline to allow sufficient lead time for gap closure, implementation, and audit scheduling. All certified organizations must complete the transition before the window closes. After the 3-year period, certifications to ISO 9001-2015 will no longer be valid. Organizations that have not transitioned will lose their certified status. Early transition is strongly recommended. It avoids the bottleneck of certification body capacity in the final months and allows organizations to benefit from the improved system requirements sooner rather than later. For concepts are essential to understanding the transition process. Let us define each one clearly. A committee draft is the first formal draft of the revised standard produced by ISO Technical Committee 176. It is circulated to national bodies, the member organizations that represent each country in ISO, for review, comment, and technical input. The CD stage is where the revision's direction is shaped, and the feedback received determines which proposals survive into the next stage. For organizations tracking the revision, the CD provides the earliest reliable indication of what the new standard will require. A draft international standard is the near-final version that consolidates all feedback from the CD stage into a coherent, technically complete document. The DS is the most useful reference for transition planning because its clause structure and requirements closely mirror what will appear in the published standard. Organizations that conduct their gap analysis against the DS can begin implementation work with confidence that the requirements are unlikely to change materially before publication. The final draft international standard is the last formal voting stage before the standard is published. National bodies review the FDS and cast a yes or no vote. If the required majority approves, the standard proceeds directly to publication with only minor editorial corrections permitted. The FDS stage signals that publication is imminent and that organizations should be finalizing their transition plans, scheduling audit dates, and completing any remaining implementation work. A transition audit is a certification audit conducted against the new edition of the standard. It verifies that the organization's quality management system meets all revised requirements and is ready for certification under ISO 9001-2026. Transition audits can often be combined with scheduled surveillance or recertification audits to reduce disruption. Organizations should coordinate with their certification body early to secure a preferred audit date within the 3-year transition window. Now that we understand the timeline, let us build a practical roadmap. These are the steps that will take your organization from the current 2015 certification to a successful transition audit under the 2026 edition. 4 practical steps form the backbone of a well-managed transition from ISO 9001-2015 to the 2026 edition. Start with a structured gap analysis. Compare your current quality management system against the revised clause requirements and identify where gaps exist. Focus particularly on the new and strengthened requirements: digitalization, sustainability, quality culture, supply chain accountability, and audit program objectives. A well-conducted gap analysis gives you a clear picture of the work ahead and prevents surprises during the transition audit. Build a prioritized implementation plan with clear ownership, milestones, and resource allocation. Not every gap carries the same weight. Prioritize based on risk, audit readiness, and the effort required to close each gap. Assign process owners to each workstream and establish regular progress reviews. Treat the transition as a project with defined deliverables and deadlines, not as a background activity that competes for attention with day-to-day operations. Train your team on the new requirements, focusing on the areas of greatest change and highest risk. Everyone who manages, operates, or audits the quality management system needs to understand what has changed and why. Tailored training for different roles, leadership awareness for executives, detailed clause training for quality managers, and practical guidance for process owners ensures that understanding is embedded at every level of the organization. Schedule the transition audit early in the 3-year window to avoid the capacity crunch that inevitably builds in the final year. Certification bodies will face high demand as the deadline approaches, and organizations that wait risk delays in securing an audit date. Early transition also gives you time to address any findings from the transition audit without the pressure of an imminent deadline. Contact your certification body as soon as the standard is published to discuss timing. Let us close with the 4 most important points from this session on transitioning from ISO 9001-2015 to 2026. To master every change in ISO 9001-2026 and prepare your transition, enroll in the full course. Link in the description. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. See you in the next video.